Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a special look at a stack of sources curated by the DGH News and Information Network. We're focusing on the latest, most relevant insights from the U.S. Virgin Islands. Our mission, really, is to cut through the noise, give you the most important nuggets of knowledge from these recent developments, so you can quickly be well-informed on what's happening right now in the territory.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Indeed. And we'll be exploring some critical issues affecting the USVI right now, things like significant legal actions, government financial challenges, public safety measures, shifts in education, and also some vibrant cultural events. What's fascinating here, I think, is how these seemingly disparate pieces of information, they actually connect. They put a pretty comprehensive picture of the current landscape. You might get some surprising facts and context you wouldn't find elsewhere. Absolutely. So let's dive right into something significant making headlines. A major lawsuit against the Virgin Islands Department of Human Services. We have a Florida-based physician initiating legal action, seeking, a staggering $10 million in compensatory damages. He's alleging a multi-year failure by the department to reimburse him for Medicaid services provided to USVI patients since at least 2019.
$10 million, wow.
Yeah.
That's a substantial claim.
Yeah.
And there's some alarming details here. The lawsuit states the physician was systematically denied access to VMIS. That's the Virgin Islands Medicaid Management Information System, right? The online platform for claim.
Exactly, the main billing platform.
Right. Denied access until 2023. So this apparently resulted in hundreds of legitimate claims valued at a minimum of $900,000 just going unsubmitted, unpaid. And even after he finally got access, he submitted over $800,000 more in claims, but has received less than $200,000. Get this, an additional $60,000 has even been acknowledged by the department as owed, but it's still unpaid. The reason given, new vendor registration requirements.
And apparently the doctor tried, every official channel before resorting to this lawsuit, filing complaints with the Region 2 Medicaid office, the Medicaid Fraud Control Unit, even the governor's and lieutenant governor's offices. Reportedly, no substantive response. The defendants named are Gary Smith, the Visave Hero Medicaid Program Director, and Carla Huggins, the Medicaid Claims Supervisor. So, beyond the immediate financial hit for this physician, what does this signal for the wider healthcare system, especially, attracting and retaining those vital off-island specialists who serve Medicaid patients?
Well, this scenario really highlights a critical systemic issue, doesn't it? Administrative efficiency, financial accountability within a crucial public service, the severe financial strain on this one physician, allegedly impacting his reputation, credit, IRS obligations. It could really affect healthcare access for residents who rely on Medicaid. And it sends, a pretty concerning message to other medical professionals thinking about providing services here.
Yeah, definitely. And beyond specific lawsuits, the broader fiscal health of the territory seems to be under immense strain. Case in point, the Virgin Islands National Guard. They've issued a stark warning about a financial crisis. It's severely hampering operations and hitting soldier morale hard. During recent testimony, the Guard's Adjutant General detailed delayed payments to soldiers on active duty. Also, the complete loss of the territory's aviation assets. They used to have 2 helicopters. And just persistent failures in budget execution.
Right. And what's truly fascinating, or maybe frustrating here, is that the core issue isn't the total amount of funding. Federal support is quite substantial, $39.1 million. The local request is much smaller, $3.24 million. The problem lies squarely in the inconsistent and, delayed disbursement of the local government's portion. And that local portion is absolutely essential for community programs like Youth About Face. So the Guard hasn't been able to fully execute its approved budget for years because of these chronic delays. This spending problem, as they call it, points to a really critical systemic issue: financial accountability, prioritization. It seems to consistently compromise essential services, even when federal money is available.
It sounds like a classic bureaucratic nightmare, honestly. And these delays have real consequences. Some soldiers reportedly declined to volunteer for duty during this year's St. Thomas Carnival. Why? Because of past payment delays for territorial active duty. The Adjutant General urged lawmakers to set up a dedicated fund just for this. And that loss of aviation assets, no Department of Defense air or maritime assets for emergencies, that sounds like a huge vulnerability, doesn't it? Especially now, with hurricane season basically upon us, no local air support in a crisis.
Exactly. The Adjutant General painted a pretty grim picture, stating they're often penalized for other government agencies overspending. So funds get redirected from fiscally responsible departments, like there supposedly is.
Yeah.
And that just leads to a cascade of negative consequences: delayed vendor payments, reduced essential services. It's a domino effect.
And speaking of significant financial shifts, the USVI is on high alert. There's a massive federal spending bill nearing finalization in the U.S. Congress. It's past the Senate, heading back to the House, and it has provisions that could be, well, both good and bad for the territory.
Right. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the Senate's version offers two potentially crucial elements for the USVI. First, a permanent extension of the rum cover-over rate at $13.25 per proof gallon. That's a vital source of revenue, where federal excise taxes on USVI rum get covered over, sent back to the territory. Makes things more predictable financially. And second, there's an exemption for locally based companies from that 10.5% global minimum tax, the GILTI tax.
Right, the global intangible low-taxed income.
Exactly. That tax usually hits multinational corporations' profits. So an exemption is crucial for protecting the Economic Development Commission program, which is key for attracting investment.
Okay, that sounds like a significant win if it holds. But there's also a potential downside here we need to watch closely. The bill also proposes a shift in how federal revenue is generated, moving away from income taxes, which directly benefit the USVI, towards tariffs, which do not flow back to the territory. This could mean a staggering reduction in local government revenues, maybe as much as $125 million annually. Governor Albert Bryan Jr. said this would have real consequences. Slower government services, scaled-back community programs potentially.
And there's more. The bill also includes proposed cuts and stricter restrictions on Medicaid and SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program.
SNAP, right? The Food Assistance Program.
Yes. Now, while the USVI gets this funding as block grants, any reduction would still place additional pressure on already strained local services. The governor expressed concern that the territory might not be equipped to handle that extra burden. So this really highlights the urgent need for contingency planning, doesn't it? To mitigate the impact of these potential cuts on the most vulnerable, should these provisions actually become law.
Let's turn our attention now to budget matters hitting a bit closer to home, affecting public sector workers, specifically within the Department of Sports, Parks, and Recreation. During a recent budget hearing, legislators directed some sharp criticism towards the department, calling it the lowest salary scale within the central government. The average salary is just $33,000.
No, $33,000 average. An analysis highlighted the tough situation for groundskeepers. It revealed that the highest-paid groundskeeper earns just $28,138 a year. And that's even after 10 to 20 years of service. This revelation was actually used to counter recent executive branch statements about a legal challenge. Remember the challenge to the legislature's veto override on that bill to raise the minimum government salary. Senator Kurt Violet specifically said, it's hard to call the legislature financially irresponsible when wages are this low.
Right. Senator Violet emphasized how essential these employees are for maintaining facilities for kids. And Senator Novell Francis expressed deep concern over morale. The acting commissioner, Vincent Roberts, he conceded morale could be better.
Which is maybe an understatement. It really makes you think, what value is placed on maintaining public spaces and on the well-being of the employees doing that work, especially when the cost of living in the Virgin Islands is notoriously high? Makes it incredibly difficult to attract and keep good people, I imagine.
Absolutely. And still with sports, parks, and recreation, some questions came up about government funding of expenses at the Clinton E. Phipps racetrack. This is happening even though the races are promoted by a private entity, Southland Gaming.
Yeah, I saw that. Senators were asking why the department was paying for certain things, like the announcer's fee, when a private promoter is collecting the proceeds. The acting commissioner did clarify the department was only directly responsible for one single race day back in December. Still, this situation raises important questions about transparency, doesn't it? And accountability in these public-private partnerships. Now, the Horse Racing Improvement Fund covers expenses for the racing surface itself. But Senator Violet pointed to checks paid from the department's casino account for racetrack-related expenses. Roberts explained that Southland Gaming is covering other costs, like security and trash removal, but only until renovations are complete. However, Senator Carla Joseph voiced her belief that Southland Gaming should be shouldering more of the financial burden, regardless of the temporary arrangement, given they're the ones profiting directly from the races.
Okay, moving to public safety now. There's been a significant and very recent development. It's regarding that armed robbery back in February at the Water and Power Authority's power plant in Estate Richmond.
Ah, yes. And what's fascinating here is just how thorough the investigation seems to have been. Detectives launched a probe that led to search and arrest warrants issued by the Superior Court on June 25th. And the execution of those warrants on July 1st at the female suspect's home resulted in the recovery of a firearm, an extended magazine, a holster, and ammunition.
Right. So on July 1st, a man and a woman were taken into custody in connection with that February 10th, 2025 incident. The individuals arrested: 32-year-old Omani Abraham and 35-year-old Christine Keynes. And notably, Keynes was employed by a security company contracted by WAPA at the time of the robbery. Abraham faces charges of first-degree robbery, first-degree assault, unlawful possession of a firearm. Bail set at $75,000 plus another $50,000 for the unauthorized firearm charge. Keynes is charged with first-degree robbery. Her bail is $75,000. Both were unable to post bail, apparently, and are now at the Golden Grove Adult Correctional Facility. This case certainly highlights concerns, doesn't it, about vetting and oversight of personnel working in critical infrastructure facilities.
It definitely does. An incident like this really underscores the vulnerability of essential services when, internal security measures might be compromised.
Okay, also on the public safety front, the Bureau of Motor Vehicles looks poised to introduce some stringent measures. This is coming in the next fiscal year, aimed at curbing dangerous and negligent driving. Barbara Jackson McIntosh, the director of the BMV, testified about plans to enhance the existing point system for traffic violations. They've secured a grant, $237,089 from the Office of Highway Safety for this overhaul, and a critical legislative amendment is pending. It would grant the director administrative authority to suspend a driver's license once they hit the 12-point threshold. That would streamline the process, importantly, by eliminating the current need to petition the court.
Right, so this reform directly targets road safety and administrative efficiency. The aim is safer roads by getting dangerous drivers off them more quickly. And in addition to that revamped plate system, the Bureau is also in the early stages of developing a commercial driver's license, or CDL, program for the Virgin Islands. Now, this is a complex, lengthy process. It involves setting up entry-level driver training, testing systems, website updates, accrediting driving schools, plus a big public information campaign.
And lawmakers have also been quite vocal, calling for the Bureau to really intensify its enforcement of vehicle registration laws. It's estimated the government is losing up to $1.5 million in potential revenue just from unregistered vehicles. So these initiatives together represent a pretty significant shift in how the USVI manages road safety and vehicle regulation, promising, hopefully, safer roads and recovery of some much-needed lost revenue. All right, let's talk about the future of education in the USVI. There seems to be a deepening staffing crisis looming, a significant number of teacher departures, plus a large wave of employees eligible for retirement soon. During a recent meeting, Education Commissioner Dion Wells-Hedrington revealed that 35 employees, including 22 teachers, have already indicated they won't be returning for the upcoming school year. And that's compounded by 46 teachers who've either resigned or retired just in the current school year.
And the challenge looks even bigger down the road. 174 employees, including a staggering 66 teachers, will become eligible for retirement by September 1, 2025. What's interesting here, though, is the department's effort to address this proactively. There's a Grow Your Own initiative, partnering with the Department of Labor and the University of the Virgin Islands. This program will target paraprofessionals who might be interested in becoming certified teachers. About 20 individuals are expected to start online classes this fall.
Okay, that's a positive step. However, the commissioner also noted that some paraprofessionals who already have teaching degrees are hesitant to move into teaching positions, often due to financial reasons, like potentially losing certain subsidies they get now. And this whole crisis comes at a really critical time, doesn't it? Departments moving forward with school consolidation plans, like closing John H. Woodson Junior High and moving students to the new Arthur A. Richards K-8 school in 2026. The future of the territory's children, the quality of their education, it really hangs in the balance if these staffing issues aren't resolved effectively. On a brighter note, though, for the community, the Virgin Islands Children's Museum is set to host a really vibrant and engaging new exhibit. It's called Gabby's Dollhouse MEOSEum Discovery Days. It's a collaboration with DreamWorks Animation and the Association of Children's Museums. It'll run from July 1st to September 30th, 2025, bringing the imaginative world of that popular kids series right to the children of St. Thomas.
Yeah, that sounds great. It's an interactive exhibit designed to celebrate imagination, the importance of learning from mistakes, teamwork, all those central themes from the show. The museum will have various themed activities, craft stations for making kitty ear headbands, hamster kitties, and a spa science area where kids can do hands-on experiments like making Meowgical mermaid slime or creating walking water displays. Sounds fun.
It does. The showroom floor will be transformed with props and toys too. A dance party room, a scavenger hunt, story times. These activities will be ongoing throughout the exhibit's run, with special programming during Toddler Tuesday events as well. It really sounds like a fantastic, engaging, and educational experience for the youngest residents, sparking creativity, curiosity, offering that unique, immersive, play-based learning. And in a wonderful celebration of history and culture, St. Croix-born fashion designer Wayne James is set to debut his new collection of fragrances. This is happening on St. John tomorrow, July 3rd, which is Emancipation Day. The launch event is at Bambula, and it's celebrating themes of freedom, rebellion, celebration, all deeply embedded in the territory's heritage. He's already had successful launches on St. Croix and St. Thomas.
Yes, and the scents themselves sound fascinating. 3 gender-neutral fragrances created in Grasse, France, but with ingredients from around the world, designed to evoke the Caribbean essence. Rebellion have notes of green mango, ripe hog plums, tobacco, coffee, very evocative of the countryside. Freedom is described as fresh, with grapefruit, guava berry, and kumquat. And Celebration is a mystical fragrance with frankincense, myrrh, ginger, pineapple, nutmeg. Plus, in a really thoughtful nod to local tradition, they're packaged in a crocus bag.
Right. And here's where it gets really interesting, connecting back to history. The launch event is scheduled for 4 p.m. Why 4 p.m.? That time was specifically chosen to coincide with the hour in 1848 when the enslaved population of the Danish West Indies was declared free. It's just a powerful, creative way to honor the legacy of the Virgin Islands, isn't it? Blending art, commerce, culture, history. And speaking of Emancipation Day, that brings us nicely to On This Day in Virgin Islands History. Today, July 2nd, marks the date in 1848 of a significant rebellion that took place on St. Croix. This uprising directly led to the governor at the time, Peter von Schulten, making that momentous declaration on July 3rd, 1848, officially freeing all enslaved people in the Danish West Indies. And that pivotal moment is now celebrated as Emancipation Day tomorrow.
That historical context really underscores the significance of events like Wayne James's launch, doesn't it? And the ongoing pursuit of freedom and self-determination in the territory. It reminds us that progress is often born from these profound historical moments, and, well, the fight for freedom is a continuous journey.
Well said. And finally, for those of you planning your day, just a quick look at today's weather forecast for the U.S. Virgin Islands. Expect scattered thunderstorms throughout the day. The high temperature will be around 85 degrees Fahrenheit with a low of approximately 80 degrees. The feels-like temperature, factoring in humidity, will be closer to 89 degrees. Winds are coming from the east at about 18 miles per hour, and the UV index is expected to be low today.
So this deep dive into recent USVI news really reveals a territory navigating some complex challenges: governance, finance, public safety, social services, while at the same time also celebrating its rich culture and history.
It certainly does. What stands out most to you from all these important updates we've discussed? We've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we? From crucial legal battles and financial woes to exciting community initiatives like the museum exhibit and the fragrance launch. It all points to a very dynamic, constantly evolving landscape in the Virgin Islands. And for those of you who want to stay even more connected to the pulse of the Virgin Islands, from news items curated by the DGH News and Information Network, I'd like to remind you that you can listen to the news, weather, and lots more online at dghradio.com. You can also request to join our WhatsApp group, where you get the news, weather, and other insightful information delivered right to your smartphone. To join, text Join DGH WhatsApp group to 11315-898-1449. Be sure to include your name in the text message. You will receive a call to verify your request. Weather updates can be heard at the bottom of each hour daily, that is 30 minutes after each hour, and FSN news 15 minutes later on the 45-minute mark. Other news can be heard 4 times daily. From the USVI, it can be heard at 6 a.m., 12 p.m., 6 p.m., and 12 a.m. From the BBI at 7 a.m., 1 p.m., 7 p.m., and 1 a.m. News from the wider Caribbean is reported at 8 a.m., 2 p.m., 8 p.m., and 2 a.m., and the U.S. and World News at 9 a.m., 3 p.m., 9 p.m., and 3 a.m. Historical feature stories come on at 10 a.m., 4 p.m., 10 p.m., and 4 a.m., and Democracy Now! Plays at 11 a.m., 5 p.m., 11 p.m., and 5 a.m., except on weekends when we have other insightful topics. Originally produced, Caribbean cultural and Afro-influenced music is played between the various news reports. Thank you for tuning in to the DGH News and Information Network.